this the barbecue one? That was pretty good. That's a red velvet cake on this one.
Test. Anyways, a good thing because my bad joke might not be over too much. Okay, so today we're talking about digital security. I'm Stephan Adams, CEO of viNGN, and have three very big brains with me on this panel. And we're going to talk about digital security today. Something that's different about digital security from our other panelists today is that digital security is something that touches all of us, not just agencies, but every single one of us, every single day. And so I want to start, I wanted to break our panel up into three little sections. One is a definition from each of our panelists, as well as a direct question, and then also get a Q&A from the audience. I think in this type of an arena, we'll get more color from a Q&A. So I wanted to start with, unfortunately I'm an old G, that I've been in this market for a long time, where when I first got into the internet, there were some friends of mine, I went to Berkeley, and some friends of mine from Stanford came over, and they started this company. It's like, yo, what's the name of this company? He goes, we're thinking about calling it Yahoo or something like that. Right? And they came over, we're using these next computers, and they hooked up our computer, and it's like, oh yeah, you just type in this little address, and you'll get to the internet. And then it's like, well, how do you get there? And the guy goes, oh, we got this browser. We got this friend named Mark Andreessen. He created this browser. Just download this thing, right? And so this is, where the internet started, right, in Silicon Valley. And so these guys are coming in, and we're in the hood of West Oakland. I mean, just shoot 'em up, Bill, right? And this is where but the internet came, and the unsung hero of the internet actually was a librarian. Because the guys at Yahoo were using the internet for not so savory things, and it was a librarian that saw, and she said, look, you guys need a catalog system. Make this open and free to everybody. And that was the mantra in Silicon Valley. She said, make it free, give Wi-Fi, give everything out for free, make everything open. And we saw what happened with that. Once the general population got it, then it wasn't so fun. Then you had to put all these gates, and now we have cybersecurity, now we have Russians hacking our phones, and you have the Chinese trying to shut down power plants, and then we have 12-year-old snotty kids trying to hack into our bank accounts, right? So all these things are things that we have to now deal with. It comes from the innocent days of the internet. So the very first question I have for my panelists, what is cybersecurity? We think we all know, but let's see what the three gentlemen have to say about what is cybersecurity.
How did I get that barbecue? All right. So cybersecurity, what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is securing all your data from the outside world. And that's a very big answer to a very complicated question, because there's so many arenas. There's your personal information, there's your browsing history. Like if you notice, if you start to talk about e-bikes, all of a sudden e-bikes start popping up in your feeds. All these things, this is all your digital security. This is all securing your information that can be monetized by folk, right? So I'll stop there because the panelists, but securing all your data as much as possible.
It was definitely on.
Thank you. Cybersecurity, I'll put it this way, cybersecurity is protecting your assets, whether they be logical or physical, across the spectrum. That's inclusive of our data, of your washing machines, of more technical, your routers, your servers. From a logical standpoint, the software, your workflows that you use within your environment, those are all things that encompass cybersecurity in my estimate.
Hi, and what I would add to that, again, Ian Tomlinson from Omni Systems, is just like you would want to protect your home physically, whether that would be with alarms, cameras, and all that sort of stuff. we have to realize that in this day and age, we all live a digital life. Our information is out there when we put it out there or on our computers and so forth. So for me, cybersecurity is protecting our lives that has now become digital. And like the panelists say, there's a lot of aspects to all of that, from just simply the companies that we interact with and we ensure that they are safe to interact with, and down to the things of forwarding things that someone sends you via text, whether or not that is even safe for you and to forward to someone else. And the whole gamut of protecting all of that is cybersecurity, as I see.
So we have some themes here, but we have some differences. The theme is protection, right? And so you want to go out, it's like you want to protect yourself. But I think the thing that was really unique here is that it's changed from the device, right? The device has changed, right? It could be a washing machine, it could be a telephone, it could be a dam, or it could be an autonomous car, right? So can each of you run organizations that are interfacing with devices and people? How do you protect the community that you're chartered to protect from a cyber security perspective?
Very good question. I'll start since I was seeing it. Definitely on day one, anyone entering our building, we have an orientation class. And part of that orientation class, we have a cyber etiquette policy. And we renew every year. So you learn what's do's and don'ts of how you interface with our equipment. You know, don't plug in flash drives. You know, if you see an email and you won $1 million, you know you didn't play a game, then you shouldn't click on it. And if you have any questions, just reach out to our team and then we can guide you better. So these are some of the methods. I mean, we also, besides just the user-facing side, we also have HIPAA compliant. We work at the hospital brand, which is in Vice President of Information Systems. So we have HIPAA compliant firewalls. We have we keep our network up to date. We also then have an outside vendor do penetration testing. So these are some of the ways that we use to protect our data.
So with that, do you find a pushback from doctors and people who work in a hospital? It's like, oh, you're being onerous and you're big brother on me. Do you? And if so, how do you balance that big brother idea with protecting the assets of the hospital and the digital integrity of the hospital?
Very rarely, but sometimes you do. And I recall an instance where we came, and one of the folks that worked for me was like, no, this machine needs to be upgraded. And they were like, this doctor's a big, scary doctor. I said, pull the device and tell him it's in my office. Right? And then we had a conversation that explained, and then the education again, as to why it needs to not be on the network. And that's how we tend to deal with situations.
Good afternoon, Mark Bough, CTO on VIT.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I know who you are.
It's
Call him something else. And I'm looking around and saying, hey, my name's Mark.
I think it's really interesting. I think where it really begins is security awareness. So that awareness, having that program available to employees so they understand the do's and don'ts of clicking on that email that says you won $1 million although you never played a game, or giving out your social security number because they said that you just want a piece of land in Tahiti or something like that. You need that kind of information. I really think the awareness from our standpoint here in the territory is a culture change. It's all about change management. We can't do the same things over and over again. I think a lot of that cybersecurity awareness needs to start in the educational level, on the elementary side. But from my perspective, in terms of what we are doing, we are engaging that security awareness, and we get a lot of pushback. You know, people are accustomed to doing the same things. They don't want to take the time, that 5 minutes to run through the little animations that tell you, well, you know, John clicked on this link and this is what happened. What's the difference between phishing and vishing, experience phishing? And, you know, it's like I don't have time. I have to create this memo for, for someone else, Director Neil, yes. You know, so I think trying to get individuals to understand it and getting them to understand what it is and sitting down with them and explaining to them that these are the things that need to happen. Also from a perspective, I think instituting more of, in the technology world, we got a framework called Zero Trust. So the best is somebody explained it to me this way. You have a building, in the past you have a building, you had security to the entrance of your building. That was it. There was no protection on the windows, there was no protection on the back doors, anything like that. With the Zero Trust, it goes more than just the perimeter, it goes to each asset. So you come inside the front door, well, first of all, you have a scan card to come in the door. And then that scan card, you have to go up, press the button, you scan to go to the elevator. You have several different doors. That scan card can open each and every door. It has specific limitations on where you have to go to. So I think us thinking in that manner, and this actually projects more into our workflows, into the assets, into the software, into interoperability, into the softwares that we use to make sure that we're protecting that. Again, standardization is another thing as well. I want to talk about standardization to make sure that we know that everyone is moving on the same platform, they have the same types of information, same types of mechanisms, apparatuses, and the like, so that we can be able to track those at the end. Because assets, you have to know what your assets are in order to really protect them. So I think those are some of the, just from the physical side as well as, you know, more of the educational awareness. But I think educational awareness is, I think that have the biggest impact in cybersecurity here in the territory.
Okay, so for those who don't understand, who don't know this, you know, Mark's the CTO over at VIT, and the unsung hero of our government is actually VIT. So I want to give a shout out to Rupert Ross and his team here, because if it wasn't for VIT, we would come to a halt, because every day people are trying to hack into government computers to see what they can freeze up to be able to get ransomware. Right? And so this gentleman is a person who protects our community. So with that, with the light on you still, what keeps you up at night from a standpoint of cybersecurity? What keeps you up?
Boy. Where would I end? You know, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just.
How much time we got?
Yeah, how much time we got? You know, it's just, I think, you know, every time you hear an entity within the Virgin Islands get some sort of infiltration and hack, that means they're lurking in our world and in our area. You know, they're probing. So we need to be vigilant on our, you know, when we protect our systems. So just sometimes I used to get a call, and that dreaded call, I can't get to my email. And it always happens on Thanksgiving Day or Christmas. And it used to come from the executive branch. Let's just put it that way. And you know, when you can't get your email, it's like the whole world ends that way. So, you know, many times I have to leave my house, and you know, my family's like watching me like, really? But those are things, you know. I mean, I get constant feeds on whether, you know, I use Instagram, constant feeds, and you see all these cybersecurity breaches and everything like that. It's like it's constant. It's always going, it's always going. And, you know, just being able to make sure that we are protecting our government, because we don't want to do payless paydays. You know, those sort of things keep me up at night.
Well, I'm glad that you're kept up at night and I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to move to you and the same question.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah, sure, thanks. On the protection side, let me answer from two perspectives. One, internally at our company, I mean, I echo what the gentleman said, is you have to be constantly educating and testing your employees to make sure that the organizational safety measures are working. And that is, again, a constant educational process that's handled by a system. So in our specific organization, we have a system that every Thursday sends you out a micro 2-minute thing to learn about being safe and test you along the way. our company also develops software, for the federal government. So safety is actually, and protection is part of the design at the start. Before we even write any code, you have to design the cybersecurity parts of what you're building. And so part of that is, there's a whole process to, before you even activate software within your organization, to have some degree of comfort that it is safe. And so sometimes a lot of organizations may go out and just buy something and implement without not actually knowing what is the safety of that particular thing. And again, always have to be careful, because you could get something cheap from some place that you don't know, but you're inviting, the bad things into your organization.
So you said that your company does work with the federal government. So since you guys do work with the federal government, what practices, best practices they do with the federal government that we need to employ here in the U.S. Virgin Islands?
The one thing I would say is, so every job that we do with the federal government, we have to follow the NIST Risk Management Framework, 800-53. And before we deploy our software onto the government network, we have to go through a process that's called ATO, which is authorization to operate. And so that's a vigorous process between the government and any body, any company that's providing software to the government, where you check all of these security controls before you turn on the switch in a test environment to make sure that that is safe. And those standards get updated all the time as we find new vulnerabilities, and you have what's called continuous monitoring. So every 3 months within these agencies, we have to exercise some set of those controls to make sure safety is still in place.
Go ahead.
Okay, one thing I'd like to echo the sentiments of my fellow panelists, but also add that digital security is not a destination, it's a journey. And it's always evolving, and as technology evolves, as we see the new push of AI, we see the bad guys using AI more and more, right? So we have to start using it.
Can you, we throw around AI just kind of willy-nilly like it's the Matrix is like, oh, AI. Can you give us an idea of what is AI and what does it mean? What does AI mean in the context of cybersecurity? Because I think there's a little misnomers out there about that.
So AI, artificial intelligence, right? So think of if we were getting in an altercation, Mark and I, and then no. And Mark wants to use his big brother, and his big brother has a team of folks, and so now his team is attacking me. So before it's Mark and I just 1-to-1. Now it's maybe 100 to 1.
You're already gonna beat him down. I can see that.
Well, maybe before I could, but not anymore, right? Because now there's a team of folks attacking. So we have to combat that with my team, right? Keep it simple.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick on each one of you very specific questions because you guys are the professionals. So if you don't do something or you do something, I want to emulate that or not do that. So Mark, I'm gonna start with you. What kind of site would you not let a family member go to? And it can't have something at 11 o'clock at night.
I would say BitTorrents.
Explain.
So BitTorrents are, not to get technical, I know my boss back there is going to probably wants to pitch his phone after me. Say it speaks to technical stuff. So BitTorrents are places you can go for free things. So you could download movies, the latest cracks for software,
Love and Hip Hop Atlanta.
yeah, series, and you don't have to pay for it, but you do pay for it because everything free. There's a payment for it at the end. And that's one of the things that we struggle with a lot of the times in building out cybersecurity policies and governance and, you know, what we would consider not safe for work sites. As BIT, as we mature and we produce these types of policies, and of course, you know, we get the kickbacks and say, well, this is a legitimate site. Yes, it might be a legitimate site in your eyes, but what we're seeing on the data, where it's going on the back end, you'll be surprised. So it's sort of balancing that sort of stuff. I tell my kids all the time, you know, they like to go on a bunch of different sites to play games, but you have to be vigilant about that. I think we need to start, like I said, we need to start teaching our kids from the onset about those nefarious actors that are out there on the internet. You know, not everything, like again, a lot of free sites have a lot of free things. I was there at once, you know, I was young, you know, when the internet first started out, you know, all that free stuff, we wanted cracks for software, I'm guilty of it, you know, but you pay the price after a while, you know, so we need to be careful about that.
Thank you. Ian, yours is a little bit different, so I'm not going to give you the same question. My question to you is, what would you not let your family download?
Just about anything.
So here's the practice of.
Yes, so the thing about downloads is, and I think I was saying this before, is you want to know the reputation of the place you're downloading from. And so, for example, if I'm going to download stuff from the Apple iTunes store, I trust that. You know, but if it's a site that came up because I was surfing on the internet that say, oh, you could go here and download this, everything looks legit. Or even worse, if it comes in an email, you know, to download something, I would definitely not have them download anything from email. If it's something that they have, for example, you get an email from Microsoft to say, we'll download this thing, I would go to Microsoft's site itself and not trust the download instruction that came from email.
So that is awesome, because I wish you would have told that to my wife when we had to change her social security number after she downloaded it. But that's a different story, she's not here. So, Mark, I have a question. My question is, so if you notice in these questions, the first one was what site to visit, what things to not download. There's one more thing that we have to talk about, there's apps. So from the standpoint of the App Store, Brandon, I have Tourette's. Brandon, what type of app would you not allow to be able to sync to your bank account?
All of them. Honestly, I'll nothing that I would not.
Wells Fargo?
Banco. I love my bank. I use Banco. I'm very leery on certain things. You know, if I get an email from, and I know Director O'Neill well, if I get an email from Director O'Neill saying that she's caught in an African jail, I will give her a call. Right? That's what you do. A lot of times, like, you can just make a call. Hey, Mark, did you send me this email? Yeah, well, no, I didn't send an email. Oh, okay. Delete. Right? And don't even preview it, because sometimes previewing it can bring it to your system.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a question, if you can, call. But a lot of things just don't make sense. And afterwards, like, you know, I really did wonder if Michael Jordan would try to recruit me to his team. Doesn't make sense. It just exercise common sense a lot of times. But and if you question, just don't do it.
That's excellent. So what I'd like to do now is, thank you, gentlemen. I'd like to open up for questions. I think this is where we get, you know, you can see we got a good thread of these gentlemen have a great knowledge here, but we might all have some different questions that haven't been asked. You guys in the audience, in St. Croix in particular, since we see you there, do you guys have some questions that you might want to pose to our panel, anything related to cybersecurity? We have a hand, a mic, or anybody over there who has a question? Let's turn this,
They were well informed.
the well-informed.
Informed.
Because we have a great panel. While we wait for the questions to evolve over there or materialize, here in this room, does anybody have any questions for our panelists regarding cybersecurity questions you might have for our esteemed guests? I was going to say, you sound like one of my all hands meeting when I asked that. Geraldine, you get that too? And then when you get done, everyone starts talking bad about you. Okay, Robert.
What recommendations do you have for someone like my mom or my dad about cybersecurity and, try to speak English?
This is your boss now.
Yeah.
This answer could go wrong.
No pressure at all.
Well, as you explained this morning, your mother was yelling, Alexa, Alexa, Alexa. In my house, it's Mark, 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 Mark. Advice for them would be to be able to take it one step at a time. Don't try to do too much. Sit down with them and explain to them what the benefits are, what the pros are, and what the cons are, and things to look out for. Again, that's easier said than done because, again, it's part of a culture dynamic. A lot of individuals within a territory are afraid of technology. But I know they think that they can get by without it, but we have to have them embrace it in some form of fashion. And so we need to take small steps, and we need to be cognizant of that as well. We need to be able to be patient with individuals, particularly our elderly population, and even with some of our younger population as well that don't want to embrace it. Believe it or not, there's some young individuals that don't embrace technology. I know people that's, you see somebody in the supermarket that's writing a check, it's holding up the line. There's people that still do that, but you have to understand, that check, somebody could be with an iPhone or an Android phone that has a nice camera, and can take a picture of that, Photoshop it, and use that check and create numbers over and over again. So you're not an exception if you're still using those sort of manual efforts. But I think it's all in education. I keep on saying education and educating them, being able to go and explain to them, not give them a piece of paper and say, hey, read this. You have to be able to show them. People learn a lot visually.
I'd like to add to that also, like in my mom's situation, it's always, I just need to do one or two things. Then you find it's like 15, right? So always beef up the machines, because a lot of times they buy a computer today, they're not gonna buy another one until like, there you go, right? So always beef it up, give them more than what they want, and a lady said early on, and I agree with 100%, give grace. Grace.
So, my last question to the panel is, it's actually a very personal one, and I'll save mine for the end to see how much truth we get out of this, is have any of you been hacked yourselves? Or have either of you been subjected to a cyber attack that was successful? Personally. Any.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a vulnerability.
Yes, I have. I'm still getting calls from a certain cell phone provider that's saying that I owe a certain amount of money. And the calls were ranging from Santa Monica, California. I've never been to California before. No, it's a nice place. I've never been to Santa Monica. And it was in like 2011. So the first time I've been to California was in 2016. So I knew that wasn't me. I know individuals that have to actually go through a whole process of getting new social security numbers and change and identity and all the other stuff, and it's affected bank accounts and stuff like that. So Yeah, those are serious things. Serious.
So I haven't personally been hacked, but some of the businesses that I manage in my personal business have been hacked for different reasons. One reason may have been, I think Mark alluded to it before, that you can have security in place, but when people open the door, bad guys come right in, and that's what happened. And I could identify, hey, you clicked on this link, and here's where it came in, and then we have to go and try to figure out how to resolve that issue, right? And that's normally how it works.
I would say I have not been hacked personally, but there's been individuals in our firm that have been hacked, and consequently, it tries to hack other people in the firm, but other people would, including myself, I realized this is not right, so I checked it out. But the other part of all of this is my information has been compromised many times, and this is even because I'm working with federal agencies. The federal agencies where my information is, they have been compromised, and as such, I have to get protection on my information so that if it's ever used, that I'm protected.
So, thank you for the honesty. So, have I been hacked? Of course I have. And I want you to explain how it happened, because I'm sure it's something we can all relate to, so that we can avoid this. Barbecues. There's a cyber barbecue sauce on this thing. My wife sent me a picture, right? And of course, this comes from my wife. I must trust it, and of course I trust it. And I shouldn't have trusted it because, of course, it was a Trojan, and it caused great problem. Of course, being the fact I'm running a broadband company for the government of the Virgin Islands, you just kind of sweep that under the carpet and don't say anything. But one of the things that if you ever get hacked, anything happens to you, the first thing that happens is shame and embarrassment. Because you say, how could that possibly happen to me? That's the first thing you have to dispel for yourself. Then you gotta say, okay, I gotta get into action. You have to do quick action. So I will give my what I did, and I could hear from my panelists about what they would do under the circumstance I just described. The very first thing that I did is the place I went to, I immediately changed the password. Very first thing, change the password. Shut the system down, change the password. It's the very first thing to do, and then I asked someone who was more intelligent than I, my brother, to be able to say, what do I do next? So ask for help. So you have to get over the embarrassment and then ask for help. So gentlemen, what else did I leave out that should happen once you do get hacked?
Check the forwarding email, right? So you change your password, but sometimes they put in a forwarding email regardless. So even if they can't get in on one site, information is still being flown through. So take away that access. Right.
So I concur with what, from a technical perspective, that's the first thing you need to change your password. Also, if you're using some sort of email program, you check to see if there's any forwarders, any rules that they may have put inside of your email on the back end. That's from a more technical technical perspective. And the third thing you might want to do is probably make your financial institutions aware that you have been, and to look out for any other charges or anything else that anybody else may be looking to infiltrate on your accounts and your other accounts. That's on the personal level, of course.
What I'd add to that is something you do prior to being hacked. And that thing is to keep really good backups of your systems.
Great.
I'm partial to Macs because they have an excellent way of restoring your entire device onto a new device. And so just make sure you have good backups, especially for your business or whatever, because if you've been hacked, you kind of want to completely wipe that computer. You don't know what residual is on the computer, and then get back to an original state prior to the hack.
Super. Well, unfortunately, this fun session is coming to an end. And I really want to thank the panelists. Thank you very much for your, not only for your insight, but the work that you do for all of us in the Virgin Islands and keeping us digitally safe. So thank you very much. And thank you all.